Thank you. Please remain standing for the national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like to make a couple of special thanks for some visitors today. We have members of the executive administration here with us, Josh DeWall and a few other members. I'd like to thank all committee members we have, visitors from St. Vincent de Paul here, as well as some other visitors. And then I'd really like to thank any members of the ISCI staff that have shown up today. I would also like to thank and welcome the family members and friends of our graduates. This is an awesome moment, and your help and support for our students has made it possible for them to be motivated to get their degrees. I would like a moment to recognize the education staff and faculty here at ISCI. They have been a creative and hardworking group of people who I've been honored to work with for quite a few years now, and it's been a pleasure to see their dedication and passion towards education. A quick round of applause for the education staff. Would the teaching assistants please rise? All my TAs. These men put a lot of time, energy, and a lot of themselves into the work that happens at the education department here at ISCI. And without their help, we wouldn't accomplish as many neat and amazing things as we do. So thank you. I appreciate your help and dedication to education. I want to thank all my graduates. I have worked with many of you personally before I became a teacher, and to see your success has been one of the true pleasures of the job that I get to now be as the program manager, that you see your progression and growth. We have some guest speakers today who I say a few words to you, and then we will proceed on with the graduation. Our first speaker has been in corrections for 22 years. In 2021, he became warden here at the Idaho State Correctional Institution. Ty has been a great support for our efforts in education. Please welcome Tyrell Davis, warden of ISCI.
Promise I won't worry too long. One, got to retread a little bit of what Vance was speaking to, just thanking friends and family, TAs, showing your support for graduates. Congratulations, guys. Like this is no small accomplishment, so you should be very, very proud. So the other cool part about this graduation is the first one we've done in person in about 4 years. The other very cool part is the Robert Janss School is also 50 years old this year. So it's kind of clandestine that you'll be the only group that graduates this year, and the first time in 4. And so just a lot of milestones for us moving that needle. I'm just gonna give you a couple words of advice. Take it, leave it, do what you want with it. And when I say words, I mean a little bit more than just one word, but I'm trying to not get into the paragraph piece of it. Number one, work hard, really hard. Anything worth doing requires hard work. Number two, always, at the end of the day, don't be a jerk. There might seem, it might seem like it's one of those things one of those norms that we've lost in our society, but it's not. Be kind. Be kind to your people. Be kind to yourself. Number three, empower yourself. You can do anything. Don't talk yourself down, talk yourself up. Always remember, you can make the difference. Number four, find your passion. That passion will drive you to do great things. Number five, this one's a little cheesy, just bear with me. It's about love. Start with loving your people. Love yourself, because you need to know anything that is huge, you're not going to do it by yourself. You need that support. So love your people and love yourself. Congratulations.
Thank you, Warden Davis. The next speaker, our commencement speaker, I've had the pleasure of introducing two of my favorite bosses up here now, and this would be number two. Our commencement speaker is a native Idahoan, so he grew up here in this state. We have that in common. He has worked for two of the U.S. governors, or Idaho governors, a congressman before becoming deputy chief of prisons in 2011, and would later be the administrator of the budget policy in 2015. He left to work for Correctional Leaders Association 27, which is an organization which supports correctional professionals. In December 2018, Josh was appointed by the Board of Corrections to be the director of the Idaho Department of Correctional. In his time as director, Josh has focused his efforts helping our residents to be better prepared when they get back into society, a better work environment for the staff. And in the time that I've spent in corrections, I've seen a great change in how this department has run and how we interact with the people we work with. He is a father of two children, and his wife have a small farm in Meridian. Right, Meridian. Please welcome the director of the Idaho Department of Correction, Josh Bilal.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And I'm just, first, Ty had one job, and that was to set the bar so low that it would make me look okay. If you fail, we'll talk about that later, because today is about your graduation, and I don't want to tarnish that memory. I do want to take just a quick step back in time, though, and talk about the namesake for the Robert Janss School, because the school itself turns 50 years old this year, and that half-century mark, I think, is something worth celebrating. But I think so too is the person for whom that school is named, because Robert Janss was a lawyer, and like we all have our quirks. I don't want to hold that against him, but he moved to Boise and was an educator at Capitol High School, and he volunteered at what was then the territorial prison, and noticed an absence of educational opportunities for people who were incarcerated with us. And that wasn't good enough for him. And so he did something about it. And what he did was take it upon himself to try to create opportunities for people to better themselves, for not making decisions for other people, but creating a landscape that allowed them to make their own decisions, to try to make better decisions, to try to make different decisions, and ultimately try to have a better life ahead of them. And there's nothing that represents the opportunities we afford people more than education, as a way to unlock doors, to expose new roads for people to travel, to really change the circumstances from which people go. And so it was fitting that when the school was formed in 1973, there was one person after whom to name that school, and that was Robert Janss. And it's also exciting to think about where we were all those years ago, and to think about where we are today. And so you go back to that time in the not too distant future, where there was just an absence of those opportunities. And you think about where we are today, and you look at last year, you know, we had 1,438 people take advantage of adult basic education. We had 208 people pursue a GED or a high school diploma. We had 1,702 people participate in some level of career technical education. We had 1,861 people go through pre-release courses prior to walking out our door. And as exciting as that is, it's just not nearly enough. But the work that you all did to get to this point, the example you set, the road you all choose to travel is going to help us in creating more opportunities for other people to follow in your footsteps, to take advantage of the opportunities that you were afforded. Because what you did here, it's not our accomplishment, it's yours. You know, Gandhi described, had a saying about accomplishments where he said, every worthwhile accomplishment, big or little, has its stages of drudgery and triumph. A beginning, a struggle, and a victory. And so I hope that when you all sit here and reflect upon what brought you to this point, what brought you to what I think everybody in this room would consider a victory. And if you don't in fact consider it a victory, I wish you could have had your ass in that seat where I did, watching you all come in. Because what I saw from your friends and your family and your loved ones were tears. What I saw was pride. What I saw was something that I think each of you should be very proud of. So it is in fact a victory. But if you just go back and think about what was the beginning of that like? What incited you to make that decision to begin this journey to try to better yourselves? And I would ask each and every one of you to try to help somebody else arrive at that same place. Like the longer you go and the smarter you get. I got asked not too long ago, that somebody said, like, what would you say to 25-year-old Josh T-Wall? And I had to tell him, like, 25-year-old Josh T-Wall was a jackass. I don't know that I could have told him anything, right? But hopefully over time, you understand that, you know, you learn, you grow, you evolve, and that you can take some of those lessons and try to help other people make different decisions, try to help other people take that first step, that beginning to something that's going to be worthwhile, that we all know is going to make their lives better. The struggle, I think, if there's somebody in this room that hasn't encountered struggle, man, come find me afterwards. I want to know your secret. But I think for all of you to make the decision that you made and to see it through at a time that was incredibly inconvenient for everybody in this world as we're going through a global pandemic, but particularly inconvenient and creating uncertainty and challenges for those of you that didn't have the opportunity to go home every day, that lived here, that lived in these institutions. So you did this at a time that was incredibly difficult. You did it at a place that was incredibly difficult. And yet you arrived here. Because a lot of times accomplishment is not a function of intelligence or particularly knowledge. It's a function of the effort you're willing to put towards it. Like that's, I think, the thing that most people fail to realize is it's that effort, that continuing effort when things are hard. It's making the hard choice during that struggle. And all of you made it through that to get to here. And that victory, going back to learning and growing and evolving, I think what I hope everybody can take away from your accomplishment and hear me when I say it is your accomplishment, is at least some ability to be mindful of the hundreds of fingerprints of other people that helped you achieve that accomplishment. It's the TAs, it's the staff, and real quick, something about the staff that I just think is worth noting. You know, I have 2,100 people who work for the Idaho Department of Correction. And we have some amazing people doing some amazing things. But it's like, if you want your cup filled, if you want just the embodiment of people who care about other people, man, go show up to any of our education shops at any of our facilities across the state, because these staff, they give a damn and they show it every single day. And so your accomplishment, while yours, I hope, in addition to feeling pride, you also feel a sense of gratitude for the people who helped you along the way, because it takes a lot of people who view success not as a function of individual achievement, but in their ability to help others be successful however they define it. And it took a lot of those folks from your TAs, maybe from some peers, maybe from your family and your loved ones and your friends that gave you words of encouragement or helped you through those struggles. Because while accomplishment's great, while success is great, to Ty's point earlier, yeah, it's gratitude, it's love, it's true appreciation that helps us be who we were meant to be. So I was telling my wife last night, talking a little bit about the nerves, because if I show up at the legislature or some other function, I have to talk about like corrections or the system or whatever. Like that part's easy, but I was explaining to her the nerves of having to be a commencement speaker, something that I know means a lot to a lot of people. And she did remind me, though, she challenged me. She asked me to think of the commencement speaker at any of the graduations that I was a part of. I couldn't think of a damn one. So kind of took a little bit of the pressure off of me. So her advice was to be quick. So with that, I do want to say for the last time, from the bottom of my heart, just how proud I am of each and every one of you, how proud I am of everybody in this room and the folks who couldn't be here today that helped you get to this place. How proud I am of your loved ones and your friends and your family for their unwavering support. And really just how proud I am to be able to share this special day with each and every one of you. So thank you for the opportunity and congratulations again.
Thank you, Director Twelve. That was wonderful. The acting speaker I'm really excited to hear is about to come up. This young man came to me about 2 years ago now. Almost 4 years ago, yeah, just right after we opened up. I was a teacher then, and he was driven probably one of the shortest amount of times from first test, actually first meeting to last test. Probably one of the shortest I've ever seen, with some of the best scores I've seen. Your student speaker not only cared so much about his own personal education, he came back and became one of our teaching assistants. Please welcome Thomas Stamus.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Stamus, and I've been a resident here since December of 2019. When I was first incarcerated, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. My first year was figuring out the ropes of prison, learning card games, and finding my place. I was lost. I was scared. I was anxious. I was learning. I was a lot of things. I had no one to influence me positively, but fortunately, I was a good enough influence on myself. And I decided against getting involved in anything that would get me more trouble. It's one thing to accept being incarcerated, but to try and make things worse would have been outright foolish of me. Prior to my disability and my incarceration, I was a warehouse assistant for a food processing plant loading rail car and trucks. It was a great job. I was getting paid around $17, $18 an hour, bringing home almost $800 a week. I got this job all without my high school diploma or my GED. I felt like I was doing really well for myself, especially for not having an accredited education. I always wanted to get my GED after I dropped out of high school, but when you have a job like that, it's like you don't really need it. There were opportunities for job growth within the company, which included on-the-job training, certification. So I never felt the need to strive for my GED at the time. And the cost of getting a GED is very expensive. Unfortunately, my alcohol addiction started to take over my life, and I ended up losing that job. Luckily, I had another job to fall back on. However, it came with a huge pay cut and no benefits. I was now only making about $8 an hour as a commercial and residential painter. I felt like a failure losing such a great job because of my addiction. My addiction continued to take over my life, and ultimately it led me to being charged with vehicular manslaughter and a 14-year prison sentence. Now, bringing us back to my incarceration in July of 2021, I finally decided to buckle down and make something of my life while I was here. So I signed up to get my GED. I didn't know what to expect when I signed up. I wasn't sure if it was just a self-study situation or being subjected back into a classroom being taught by a teacher. Either way, I was determined to get my GED, particularly because I know I didn't have to pay for it. Going into my GED class on the first day was amazing, mostly because it was a nice change of pace after being locked down in my housing unit for a year due to COVID. I was really excited to begin my GED journey. Surprisingly, though, it didn't take me as long as I expected. I didn't expect to do so well and complete my GED within a month. I hadn't realized I remembered so much from high school. Upon receiving my GED certification, I was absolutely ecstatic. I finally had an accredited education. Thanks to the teacher's assistants and teachers like Mr. Smith, they helped make this possible. They made it an easy experience and provided me with the basic essentials for successfully completing my GED. After receiving my GED, doors began to open for me. I could finally apply for jobs within the facility. I could participate in multiple clubs and classes, including an opportunity to attend a Boise State University course for psychology. Getting my GED has been one of the biggest milestones I've achieved in my life. Without a GED, I would have never been able to become a Boise State student, which alone has been one of the greatest accomplishments of my incarceration. I look forward to attending as many college courses as I can while they're being offered. Since receiving my GED, I've been given the opportunity to become a teacher's assistant in the GED classroom. I now get the chance to help other residents work towards getting their GED. I get to prove to them that it can be done and that it pays to have their GED. When I finally get a chance to be paroled out, I might have to mark that box on job applications that says I'm a convicted felon, but I also get to mark that I have my GED, and I know I accomplished that during my incarceration. To sum up what my grandpa has always told me, your house can be taken, your car can be taken, your clothes, and even your freedom. But what cannot be taken from you is your knowledge and education. That's why I choose to further my education as far as I can take it, because knowledge is priceless. When you learn for a lifetime. I want to end by sharing a quote. Two men look out the same prison bars. One sees mud and the other stars. Every graduate in here can see those stars, are reaching for them by being here today. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stamos. I was lucky enough to hear that speech once before, and I knew it would be a hit with this crowd. All right, now it's time these guys have been waiting for, and I know these guys are excited to watch. We're going to award the GED completions. The certificates will be handed out by Taylor Ponco. He is the Director of Education for the Robert Janss School. And he actually worked here as the Special Ed Director before that, so I've known Ted for a long time now. I'm very excited to be working with him. The students' names will be read by our GED faculty members, Heidi Block and Tana McDonald. Tana McDonald's our newest GED teacher, and Heidi is our second newest GED teacher. At this time, I would invite the members of the executive leadership, Director Twal, any of the members of leadership that's here, facility leadership, Warden Davis, And then, as our graduates receive their diplomas, they come across and shake hands with members of the leadership.
First, we have Anthony Alcala. Next, we have Stephen Rain. Then we have Cody George. Next is Michael Hansen. Next is Wesley Hightower. Then we have Cody Morton. Jason Ibarra. Next, Leroy Kelsey. Ryan Ottoson. Now we have Adam Quiros. Now we have Marvin Thomas Velasquez. Gustavo Vera. Zachary Weezer. Now we have Kyle Williams. And last, our student speaker, Thomas Stamus.
We would now like to read the name of the graduates who are not able to be here with us today. We have Pedro Archuleta, Nicholas Berna, David Call, William Koenig, Lance Dalton, Jamie Galvin, Timber Godina, Antonio Gomez Jr., Nicholas Hostetter, David Johnson, Dustin Lawson, Daniel Madrid, Garrett Martin, Nicholas Pasco, Michael Raleigh, Kenneth Reitz, Joshua Rhodes, Kenneth Riley, Paul Rone, Jesse Ruse, Frank Rapinski, Matthew Weaver, Kyle Williams, and Miguel Zavala Villicana. Please give them a round of applause.
Gonna put my eyeballs on, excuse me a second. Okay. Thank everybody for being here. So give me just a few minutes and we'll get to the most important part here in just a minute. So first, thank you to the family for your support, to be here for your students and your loved ones and for their accomplishments. For ISCI leadership, your commitment to education and impact on students, education programming, dedication to your craft and the students that you serve, and most importantly, to the students. Well done. You've earned it and you've crossed the finish line. Chuck Swindoll once said, "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It's more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, and a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We got to change the fact that people act a certain way around us or towards us. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 9% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. And so for each of you, what you've accomplished today, you took charge of your own attitude to get yourself to this point. And so I just say congratulations to you for that hard work, dedication, commitment for yourself. Okay, well, since we're in an education environment, just a short history lesson, and then we'll get to the TASL process. All right. So during World War II, the GED credential was created to make it easier for veterans to pick up where they left off with their plans for education, careers, and their personal goals. 2 years later, the GED took on a more structured form thanks to the work of Everett Franklin Lindquist, who led testing programs at the University of Iowa at the time. The original GED was modeled after the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Eventually, the American Council of Education was born with the mission to mobilize the higher education community to shape effective public policy and foster innovative, higher quality practice. Hundreds of young soldiers were able to get their high school credentials and go on to college and jobs after fighting for the nation's freedom. So thank you to those who served our country. A few years later, in the 1950s, civilians could also participate in the GED program. As you can imagine, that was a game changer. Adults who were not able to complete the traditional high school education finally had a way to earn their diploma and proceed to accomplish further education and career objectives. Shortly thereafter, the GED testing was also allowed in federal correctional and health institutions as an option offered by most US and Canadian provinces for adults who are either unwilling or unable to complete high school in the traditional manner. So now we're here at the graduation, and what's the purpose of the tassel? And why do we move it from left to right, or right to left, excuse me. The turning of the tassel at a graduation represents that an individual has earned the right to graduate and has transitioned from one level of learning to another. So I ask you to take your tassel and move it from right over to the left. And by this process, you now have become going from transition from the student to the teacher. And so hopefully you will pay that forward for what you've learned and pass it on to those coming behind you. So moving the tassel to the left after graduating is a symbolic of crossing over to another stage in your life. This is a rite of passage, and the literal movement of the tassel acts as that symbol. So with that, I am proud to say congratulations to the ISCI Summer Graduate Class of 2023.
Thank you. Now for the time you've all come forward to the end of this meeting. That's what I like in meetings. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for our students. Thank you for family and friends who've come, for our speakers, for our visitors, and for the faculty who have put so much work towards this day. We will have a reception. The two classes here on the side. There'll be snacks. You can spend time with your friends and loved ones. We will end this at 11 o'clock. And so I would ask one more time, everyone, please rise and remain standing until the graduates have left the room. Thank you. Thank you. Please go to the reception.